Welcome. Thank you for joining me. This is my first recording for my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel is called African Diaspora Journeys with Sharon. As you guessed, I'm Sharon. I'm Sharon, a woman of a certain age. I'm in my 70s and I'm retired. I'm a retired nurse and I've traveled all over the world. And I think travel just reinvigorates you. And what it does, it lets you know that there's other ways to do things. It just opens up your world to just new adventures. So that's why I decided to launch this channel. Moreover, I have a travel business, so I've put together curated trips of the African diaspora for the last couple of years, and they seem to be coming kind of successful. I'm learning, but my audience is mostly people in my age group, but I take a few young people along too. The main thing is to discover about the African diaspora. And the important thing to know is that African people left the continent really before the first century AD, and they live everywhere and they're thriving everywhere. There's Black people living in places you would not have thought of. And so I want to bring that to your attention, but I also want to share other people's experience. I'm going to be doing interviews with people who've gone places that I haven't went, and they'll share their experience. My first interview will be coming up soon with a young lady who she spent time in Ghana as a student, and she's in her 20s. So very different in my perspective, but yet something to compare and contrast. I will also talk to people who've gone on some of my trips, and I'll have highlights of the trips. So I hope you will join. I think they say you have to like and subscribe. I don't know, but I have young people in my life to help me to figure this all out. And I'm just going to be me. And, people will criticize, as people do, when you have anything in social media. They may say, oh, she speaks fast, she doesn't speak clear, da da da. I don't care. I'm me. I do have some degrees. I was raised in Los Angeles, Southern California, in the area where many of the fires were occurring. And I was from a lower income family. I didn't read very well. And my mom recognized I wasn't reading when I was pretty early in life, fifth, sixth grade, that something wasn't quite right. But nobody really said anything because the schools we went to is like, as long as you don't cause trouble, you're fine. My mom began to read to me and I began to learn to read. So by the time I graduated high school, I was probably only reading about an eighth grade level, maybe a ninth grade level. Nonetheless, I loved it. I loved reading. My first book was Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. And my mom was reading about England, and I'm thinking, where's England? So we would go to the library and we would look at geography and we would find out England is far away. And I thought, that'd be nice to go to one day, you know? And so I began to read and read and read. And to make a long story, that part of my story a little shorter, I realized that I actually had a learning disability and I was able to correct that later in life. But because of my love reading and I love adventure, I began to travel very early on. I also wanted to be a nurse. And so I became a nurse when I was 17. Well, I went into nursing school at 17. And by 18, I was a licensed practical nurse. Had worked several years before as a nurse's aide in high school. So I was really good with that. Became we call them LVN in California, but I became an LVN. Then I later became a 2-year RN. And then I just kept reading and learning, and my mom would help me. And one day I'll tell you all that story. But if you have parents that believe in you, they may not have a college education, but they will encourage you. And I was the first person in my family to go to college, even in the extended family. So I eventually got, my bachelor's in nursing, kept going to school, kept traveling, kept learning, got a master's, ended up getting a second master's in nursing education, in education. And then I finished with a doctorate in adult education. So even though I may speak kind of funny and fast and don't use proper English, I'm well educated, but I'm also very well traveled. And I've been to probably 40 countries. And I purchased postcards Because when I first started traveling, I didn't have a lot of money. I had a young child. I had been married, but then by then I was divorced. I had this young child with me. So we didn't have a lot of money to travel, but him and myself loved to travel. So I would buy a postcard of a souvenir for every place I went. So now I can count those postcards and remember every place I went. Anyway, that's kind of roughly my story. Again, this is my first YouTube channel, my first really social media in a real way. I mean, I've been on Facebook and I've been on Instagram, but I didn't know what I was doing. I made a lot of mistakes. But what I want to encourage you, no matter what your age, what your disability, what your race, no matter where you're at in life, you can enjoy life. And if travel, subscribe and click the like notification for my videos. Thank you so much for joining me. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.